Welcome, friends. Welcome to the new edition of the Manish Tiwari show. My show is about multicultural Britain and what makes that possible. The people who make all the difference and who keep the spirit of multiculturalism alive by being not just silent spectators, but being the force for good. Today we have one such person with us, a name a lot of you might be familiar with, a lot of you might not know, because he's been in politics, he's been in public life, but he's been working with Lib Dems, and somehow I have a feeling that not a lot of our people from the Asian background and the black and ethnic minority background still understand what Liberal Dems stand for and what they're all about. So he's the vice president of the Green Liberal Dems, and he's been in active politics. He's also holder of the British Empire Medal. He's FRSA LLB Honours, and he has numerous other titles to himself. He's also an assistant lecturer of politics at the London Metropolitan University. Friends, I'm talking about Kishan Tiwari. I've known him for a long time, and I've seen him doing things which I can say I'm very proud of. He's talking about the right issues. He's standing up for the disempowered and the disenfranchised, and he's working with the Liberal Dems. He's part of the Liberal Dems. Kishan, welcome to my show.
Thank you very, very much for the kind introduction. It was very humbling. Thank you.
Kishan, congratulations on your recent appointment as the honorary VP of the Green Liberal Democrats. How do you see your new role in the Liberal Democrats, and what do you think about the future of the party? Obviously, in the last few years, we've seen the Conservatives coming back to power, the last 3 terms, and one of those terms where we had Liberal Dems participating in the government, they were partners with the Conservative. What is your view, and what do you think is the future?
So, to take the first part of that question first, so the Green Liberal Democrats are an associated group to the Liberal Democrats, and they are the green conscience of the party that talk about the environment, issues like climate change. But the major input that I hope to bring to that is talking about how BAME communities are disproportionately affected by green issues, like climate change, like pollution, and also underprivileged, deprived communities are disproportionately affected by these issues that encompass the green agenda. So it's a real honour to take that role up as Vice President. I'm joining MPs, former MEPs in that role, so I'm very privileged to do that. But coming back to myself, the Democrats, it's quite fascinating because, as you know, Manish, I didn't start my political life as a Liberal Democrat, and it'll be interesting for your viewers to understand this. I was a Conservative. I was one of the very active Conservatives. I was deputy chairman of the Conservative Party in London, which is quite an achievement. I'm probably the youngest in that role ever. I stood for the Conservative Party in 2015 as their parliamentary candidate in Leicester East against Keith Vaz, who many of you viewers will know. And I decided to then cross in 2017. Fundamentally, for 2 major reasons, and I'm documented in saying this as well at the time I did cross. The first reason was Brexit. I fundamentally believe Brexit is one of the worst things that this country could have ever embarked on, and we're seeing it unravel. What we've been trying to talk about for the last 2-3 years, we're now seeing it unravel in the world that we live in. And the second thing which really did affect me personally was the real lurch to the right by the now Conservative Party and the then development of the lurch to the right. There was once a Tory MP called Stephen Phillips who left similar time that I left the Conservative, and he called the Conservative Party UKIP Light. And it's a very interesting idea because we felt it, people like myself and Stephen Phillips, clearly that the Conservative Party was going so far to the right that it was engulfing a lot of these UKIP tendencies, right? Or the Brexit Party tendencies. And I could see this real uncomfortableness with immigrants, with immigration policy. I could see the Enoch Powell days, which many of your viewers will remember. I can see that coming back to the forefront of British politics, and I was not going to stand for that. I had to look at myself in the mirror. My conscience was telling me this is not the correct thing that's going on in British politics. So I left, and I decided to join an internationalist, global, open party that talks about tolerance, social justice, and liberal values, which I fundamentally believe in.
Thank you, Kishan. And I think that's very heartening to know that you took a stand. A lot of our people, and I'm talking about the wealthy Asian people, the new generation who wants to get into politics, wants to go into it like a career. They are all about career politicians. They want to become a career politicians. They want to climb the ranks and be somewhere in the public domain. So I'm so glad and I'm so proud that you took a call based on your conviction. I recently read a case study in one of the marketing books on the great manipulation of Dominic Cummings when they took on the Brexit campaign. And the whole idea which Dominic Cummings came with, which was to let's make Britain great again. The use of the word great in the campaign and the whole spin around it, which was aimed at convincing the white voters who are living in the countryside, let's put it like a certain section leaning towards the right, who wanted to see Britain in its colonial past when it was a powerhouse in terms of ruling a part of the world, the imperialist part. And it appealed to that demographic, and that's how they kind of started changing and winning people over. But a lesser known fact, which a lot of people don't know, is also how they conquered the ethnic and the BAME communities by ensuring and manipulating them with fear that people from Europe are going to come and take their jobs. And I was astonished and a little bit kind of astounded that a lot of people in East London, in the poor Bangladeshi households, in some of these communities, they were totally for Brexit, assuming and believing that their rights and their livelihood will be taken over by the Europeans from the eastern part of Europe. And that's how they started voting in favor of Brexit, completely manipulated by the conservative spin masters. So I'm glad that you brought this up. But I have a question. Can Lib Dems, Liberal Democrats, can they really make a difference? I mean, we have conservatives on the back foot during the pandemic. They made quite a few U-turns. I won't say blunders, because blunder might be a harsh word, because none of us knew exactly what was going to happen, but they made quite a few U-turns. It was not thoroughly based on research and better understanding. We somehow got through this. I hope we get through this. But do you think Liberal Democrats will really be able to hold anyone accountable? Do they have the critical mass?
Well, I think, let me just go back to the point that you made previously, because I think that's a very pertinent point that you've raised. Actually, Dominic Cummings was a very dangerous man, and we've seen, he's now out of government, but after causing devastation, really. I mean, it was always one rule for them and another rule for others. The Bernard Castle scenario, we all know what happened there. It was okay for him to travel, but it wasn't okay for us to go and see our dying relatives, for example. There was a lot of hypocrisy there. But a more pertinent point, the point you made about Brexit, and actually how the Asian community, people don't realize this, the British Asian community in particular, did vote, although they voted in favor of Remain on the whole, it was almost a 60-40 split. And I've read some research to suggest that was the case. Now, that was troubling, seeing as the fact that we as a population are immigrants. Yes, we are fundamentally the son of refugees that came from Uganda. So this whole notion of pulling up the ladder beneath us was actually playing. And the reason why, one of the main architects of that was a lady called Priti Patel, who went to the Bangladeshi Catering Association, promised them, and you're speaking predominantly, as you mentioned, the Bangladeshi media, I can speak very confident about that because I know some the people on that catering association who have spoken to me personally about this. Going there and promising them that you will be able to have chefs come over if we leave the EU. You will be able to bring chefs from Bangladesh, from India, from Pakistan, from all over the Indian subcontinent, and they will be free to come here. And this will be a land of honey, wine, and great capabilities, etc. And actually, that was an absolute farce. It was an absolute con, like the 350 million pound bus that we all remember, the red bus. And fundamentally, people were duped into voting. A lot of people from the Asian community were duped into voting for that, and actually, have never got a chance since then. So we'll park that for a second. But the second part of your question is this: is do the Lib Dems have a voice? Well, I can fundamentally say we are the only internationalist, outward-looking party currently in British politics, and there is a huge void in those families that you were speaking about. Those Asian families you were speaking about a moment ago. There is a huge void in these areas, in these communities, who are politically homeless because Conservatives are too far right for them. The Labour Party are not getting their act together, and fundamentally are still living the reminiscence of the Corbyn era, and haven't been able to break away from the left. And there is a huge void in the centre ground. And the Liberal Democrats under Sir Davies is a very, very good leader, and who has got experience in government, who's got a great radical reform program, and who believes in the individual, liberty, and liberal values. Really has got the ability to reach out to the BAME communities, and does a lot of work within his own constituency in Kingston, where he has a large British Asian community living there, and has done very well with them, particularly the Tamil community that live there. So and the Muslim community and the other Muslim communities that live there. So it's a very he's done made a lot of inroads there. But fundamentally, there is a big void in British politics now. Now it is up to the Liberal Democrats, it is up to my party to be able to reach out and to make those inroads and to do those types of things. But will that happen? Can that happen in one election cycle? That is a question. Now, I do believe it can happen. It will take work on our part. It will take work on us reaching out to BAME community. It will take work on us on making those inroads into the community, visiting the temples, visiting the mosques, visiting the gurdwaras, right? And actually, that is a process. Now, all I can say is the party leadership in Sir Ed Davies is very, very, very pro that. They want to do that. They want to engage. And they're really reaching out. I'm vice president of the Liberal Democrats campaign for race equality as well. And I've been in that role for a couple of years now. And that is an entire group of people that looks to reach out within the Liberal Democrats, that looks to reach out to BAME communities across the country. And we feed in all the time to the party leadership, and you're constantly in liaison with them. And so a lot of things are taken on board. We also have a vice president that looks after just BAME communities. So their role is just looking at BAME engagement. So there is a whole area of this that we're looking at, and we're making, of course, there's also much more that we could do, and like every political party we could do. Getting more candidates selected, getting more councillors from BAME communities, getting more MPs from BAME communities. It's very, very important. And I think this is the direction that the Liberal Democrats are going in. But is it an option for the in Asian communities to vote for, the BAME community to vote for? 100%. Is it a community that relates to the values of the BAME community? Very much so. Very much so. We are a party that is pro-business. We are a party that believes in fairness, in social justice, in the NHS, in education, in aspiration. All these things are liberal values. So most definitely we can fill that void, and I hope we are making inroads to that, and hopefully at the local elections coming up, you will see that.
Well, I hope so for you, Kishan. But my experience has been that so far the party has not been the most effective in reaching out to the BAME communities, and I hope you can change that. It's important because while your values are aligned, it should be communicated, and it should be communicated in a simple, easy way so that the communities get it. And so that the party can get the critical mass. It's really important.
Yes. It's a very fair point.
Yeah. What do you think? We touched upon the Conservatives and we touched upon the pandemic. And there was a report in Times a few weeks back and they've used a word which is not often used, but I like the sound of it. It's called chumocracy, chumocracy or whatever. I mean, I'm not even sure how I'm pronouncing it correctly. But what it said was most of public sector funding during the pandemic, during this last 1 year, seems to have gone in a certain way. There seems to be the old school friends and family model of kind of doling out contracts, and there is a big question mark. But I think the present government seems to be skidding away or kind of avoiding that on the pretext that this was a national emergency and things had to be done, and there was no time to kind of play it fair, or rather play it by the book. What do you think has been happening, and why? I mean, I don't see a combined front either from the Labour and the Lib Dems in kind of holding the government accountable on any of these fronts. So why do you think we have this kind of lapse in public life, Kishan?
Well, it's funny you mentioned this democracy. It's a very interesting concept, and unfortunately, we've got to see that from Dido Harding to only the ruling within 48 hours ago on Matt Hancock recently, which your viewers will know about as well. And there is a serious concern as to how government contracts are being handed out and what the transparency is and how all these procedures are going on. Now, I'm not here to comment on individual cases because I don't have the facts on individual cases. But all I can say is that you cannot hold other countries to different ideals. And many a times the British government are very easy to comment on African countries or Asian countries about being corrupt, about doing all these types of things. But actually, maybe they need to start looking within their own structures and seeing what's going on here, because this just doesn't sound right. And I think people are seeing this, with social media, with access to knowledge, to public information, etc. People are not going to stand for this, and I think it will affect them at the ballot box as well, because this is just not on. In 2021, in the United Kingdom, we're in a situation where people can even talk about democracy. So it's a really grave area of concern for my party, but also for the general public. Now, in terms of the Liberal Democrats, I can't really comment much on the Labour Party, but in terms of the Liberal Democrats, do we get the airtime? It's very kind of you for having me on your show, Manish, but do we get the same airtime as someone else, as another? Do our MPs get the same airtime? Does Sir Ed get the same airtime as Keir Starmer, right? So Keir, that is a big question. The media should possibly have a look at that as well, because we fundamentally sometimes don't get that. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't give our own opinions, and we do. We write in. Ed has done some amazing job. He's managed to get in the Sun newspaper and talk about these things. He's managed to get in in various media outlets. Our MPs get on Question Time. Only a couple of days ago, we were on Question Time as well. So we are holding them to account. In Parliament, every single day, whether it's Daisy Cooper, our deputy leader, or whether it's Ed, or whether it's our other MPs, Munira Wilson, who looks after the health remit, they are constantly scrutinising the government, right? Whether it's on education, Daisy's scrutinizing them. If it's on the health agenda, Munira's scrutinising them. We have a very, very, very good team in the House of Commons, and even though it's a small team, and they're constantly getting questions in, they're constantly holding these people to fire. But often they don't get called up because they feel where they can neglect. This government is such that they don't want to look at the views of minorities, what they see as minorities. Actually, the system is the problem. If we had a system of PR, the Liberal Democrats today would have over 60 to 70 seats in the British Parliament. With over 4 million votes in this country, we have we have a handful of MPs. But if it was a system of PR, which is a fair system, we would have 60 to 70 MPs in this country. It is a farcical voting system that we have in this country, which only allows two parties to be elected and govern, which is a huge shame, because lots and lots of people, whether they vote Green, whether they vote Liberal Democrat, SNP, or they vote Plaid Cymru, or they vote, all these other parties are just not getting a view. They're just not getting a say in it, because the two major parties do not want to reform the system. Now, I do hope Sir Keir works with Sir Ed on this and looks at, if he were to become Prime Minister at some point, that he would look at this idea.
Kishan, I'm just going to interrupt you there because we have a break. We'll be there
Yeah.
right after the break in a few minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
To the show. We have here with us in the studio Kishan Tiwari, who is from the Liberal Democrats. He holds an important portfolio. He's the VP of Green Lib Dems. He's a very well-known, well-read guy who has been in active public life for at least almost a decade. And as I got to know today, I did not know this, Kishan, that you took on Kitwas way back. That must be an interesting experience.
Yes,
I guess it was, in terms of
great.
timing, maybe that was not the right time. Maybe you could have done it now.
Well, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have. I couldn't with the Conservatives. It was never going to be an option, really. Not, the Conservative far. They left my politics, really. I mean, under the Cameron era, it was a different scenario in coalition. The coalition worked very well. Nick Clegg and Cameron worked very well with one another. But I always found myself on the argument of the Liberals all the time, even while I was in the Conservative Party. I used to end up agreeing with the Liberals far more than the Conservatives. So at that point of time, I should have realised and left even then. But of course, Brexit was the trigger, and I realised that this is really now going back to the Enoch Powell days, which really left me uncomfortable.
No, great. I mean, on that note, I have a question. Where do you think the Asian vote sentiment is right now? And as I mentioned earlier, there seems to be within the Asian community, and I'm just saying it's Pan-Asian, or maybe it's not Pan-Asian, maybe it's more Indian phenomena, where, like the way we clamor to be lawyers or accountants, or we go for degrees, I think there is now a new thing, which is, and I've seen this firsthand happening, parents advising their children to go and join the Conservative Party. Maybe they have got great role models. They've got role models like Rishi Sunak, maybe Priti Patel, and maybe some other names, Alok Sharma. So there seems to be a shift which is driven by the fascination and by the belief and to some level conviction that they can rise up the ranks. They could become well-known, powerful names. And do you think that's how the Asian community is in terms of their politics right now? Or am I making it too simplistic, or am I saying something which is not quite the truth? What do you think?
Well, it's fascinating you say this, and many commentators said many similar things to me actually in the past. So there clearly seems to be some element of viability in what you're saying. What's fascinating is this: is if you ask people on their values why they would join a political party and why they want to venture out on a career in politics. I mean, it's great. Young Asian people, young BAME people getting involved in any political life or public life, whether that's charity or voluntary work, is absolutely fantastic. Let me stress. Which party they join as well is a matter for themselves. And the fact that they're getting engaged, for me, is a great thing. And it's something to be celebrated, and we should definitely promote that. When it comes to the sudden fascination over people joining the Conservative Party, there is possibly an element of the fact that everyone likes to join the winning team, or what they perceive as the winning team, and some would argue that. But the Asian community is not simplistic, as you said. You know, the Indian community is also not simplistic. And if you look at many of the seats where there are large BAME populations, they still vote, predominantly for the Labour Party, whether that's Leicester East, whether that's Ealing Southall, whether that's Birmingham Edgbaston, whether that's Slough, whether that's seat in the East, some seats, a lot of the seats in East London. So it's what you're saying is very much true in certain constituencies, but it's very difficult to just box people into that type of a category. Now, as Liberal Democrats, can we do more to reach out? Of course we can, because as I said earlier on, there is a lot of people who are politically homeless and are often guided by their parents, often guided by the economics of voting and where they feel that they will be better placed economically. Now, what they don't realize is there is a third option. And the Liberal Democrats are pro-business. They are open to the idea of fair business. They're open to the idea of people doing well. They want people to do well. They want people to get on in life. But they also want to make sure that they spread privilege. They want people to come up the ranks and come up the ladder and walk up the ladder. They don't just want to simply pull up the ladder like the Tories want to do, or they simply don't want to keep people at the bottom like the Labour Party do. So actually, there is a third option. And when you articulate that, when you go out, reach out to people, talk about this third option, and engage with people at their in their own communities, at their doorsteps, etc., then that will surely make a difference. But of course, there is a there is a trend. I've seen certain aspects of this as well. That all of a sudden people and it could be related to role models. It could be related to the fact that the Conservatives have under David Cameron in particular, they did do a lot of engagement with the BAME communities. I mean, in particular the Indian community. So that is now the onus is on other political parties to do exactly the same thing and actually better it, but actually do it for the benefit of the community, not just viewing community as vote banks. And that is my issue, because both major political parties view BAME communities as vote banks, and they simply want to go out and get their votes because they somehow deserve their votes because they're engaging with their communities. Well, actually, no, you need to be doing things for their communities and for various communities. And that's what we believe as Liberal Democrats, that we should be doing things for all communities, because we believe in an international, global world where we're all part of the one family, and that's very important to us. So fundamentally, yes, the onus is on political parties. Yes, the Conservatives have done things over the last, decade to do that. But I actually believe, and I've seen it now, that they have taken steps back since 2015, actually, where their engagement with BAME communities is now, at probably, I would say it's rock bottom in many ways, because, look at the vote that they attracted at the last election. It was the Brexit Party vote. It was a very right-wing vote, which, yes, of course, some Asian communities did join in and vote for that. But, primarily it was a vote that came over from the Brexit Party, from UKIP, and there are not many members from the BAME community that are in the UKIP party or in the Brexit Party. So I think they are slipping. Their standing amongst Asian communities in particular is falling down. It's interesting. The Black community has been very wise in not trusting the Conservatives for a long time. And if you look at their communities, they en masse tend not to vote for the Conservative Party. But I mean, and lots of research has happened in that area as well. But actually, can the Liberal Democrats do more? They can. And should we do more? 100%. It is our duty to do more. We want BAME communities engaged. We want Black communities involved. We want Asian communities involved. We want all communities involved, because it's good for democracy. It's good for promoting British values of democracy, of tolerance, of social justice, of liberalism. These are fundamentally not just British; they're international, and we believe.
Sure. So as they say, politics makes strange bedfellows. And I think what you're saying seems to be true. There is a very hardcore right-wing leaning in the present government. And then you have, a significant number of people from the Asian community who are funding it, So there's some kind of inherent, should I say, value conflict. And I saw this happening. I refrained from taking names, but in the last few years, I've seen, and this I kind of almost get WhatsApp messages and emails. And there's a part of the Indian community which went to conservative under the guidance of, one of the ex-Labour, should I say, kingmakers. On the pretext that the Labour was not doing enough in kind of distancing, a certain kind of Pakistani hardliners or Islamic hardliners, so they feel safer with the conservatives. So there are all kinds of, should I say, maneuverings which have happened, and possibly the conservatives have got the benefit of that. But Kishan, I mean, that's politics, and I guess that happens everywhere. Kishan, we're going to get into another break right now, and we'll be back after that, and we'll take this conversation forward.
Perfect, thank you.
So friends, welcome back to my show. We have with us here today in the studio Kishan Tiwari, who's from the Liberal Democrats Party. He's also an assistant lecturer of politics at London Met University. And Kishan, I think we've talked enough about politics today. So before the show comes to an end, I would like to touch upon certain other things. And I believe you, when I was researching about you, I found out that you also did study Sanskrit language, which really fascinated me, and which shows a very scholarly side of you. I tried to learn that language as when I grew up in India, but I must say that it's awfully difficult, and it takes a certain kind of perseverance to get anywhere with Sanskrit. So I'd like to know a little bit more about that, and can I use the occasion to say Swagatam to my show once more?
Swagatam to you as well. Basically, it's fascinating because I started my life as a teacher. And I did religious studies at university. Well, I did law for my first degree, and then I went on to do a PGC in religious education. I was always very interested in philosophy. The reason why we're here. I come from a Swaminarayan background. Many of your followers know the Neaston Temple. I belong to that sect of the Hindu faith. I've been going there since I was a child. Pramukh Swamiji, who many of you have heard of and have seen his work, is my guru. He's no longer with us, but Mahant Swamiji is in his place now. And I had a very, very blessed upbringing in as much I was able to be with the Swamis regularly. And I was very lucky to have learned Sanskrit with them, whether it was holidays, whether it was on weekends, and so I had an interest in it from a very young age, and then I did a little bit of sort of reading of it, and a little bit more formally, but I wouldn't say I'm fluent in it, of course not, but I can read it, I can write it. I also can read and write Hindi, even though it's not my matrabhasha, it's not my mother tongue. Gujarati is my mother tongue, and I can read and write that as well. But Hindi was with the same script of Sanskrit, etc. So it's I'm a little bit of a linguist. I was very interested in it, but my own spiritual upbringing was something that has formulated my life, and the teachings of my gurus. Fundamentally, I try and imbibe in my life, and that was those have always informed my political judgment. Those have always informed my career choices, etc. as well. And so, yes, and I went to teaching. I then taught religious studies at the Swaminarayan School, which was up until recently the only Hindu faith school in Western Europe. Obviously, now with the Krishnavati schools that opened up, it isn't the only one, and unfortunately, the Swaminarayan School is now closing after many years in operation. But I was a head of religious studies there, head of faculty, and it was a great experience to teach, young Asian children about Hinduism, in particular about Sanskrit, and it was something that I passionately miss actually now that I'm in the world of consulting and in the world of PR and all these other wonderful glamorous things. But I do miss the classroom, and that's why I was very, very humbled when I was appointed associate lecturer of politics and international relations and diplomacy at the London Metropolitan University. And I was very, very happy to have accepted that offer, and I still have contact with people who are engaged in academia. So it's really, really nice to still have that part of my life, which I really missed. And so it's still a passion of mine. Fundamentally, I still. We still recite shlokas in the house. We recite them daily in Sanskrit, both within our individual pujas, in our prayers in the morning, during the artis in the evening. We do all of these things as a family. It's almost a bonding time for us, actually. So, it's a part of my life that I don't really get to speak about much, Manish, actually. I'm grateful that you did bring this up so I can actually talk about this on a public platform.
Thank you, Kishan. So I have a huge respect for the Swaminarayan community and the way they've conducted themselves, in this country especially, but not just in this country, in many parts of the world, and the sense of discipline in civic life and in religious and social life the community has shown. And I do, I've met Pramukh Swami Maharaj, and I know PM Swami here. So this community has always fascinated me, and I hope you continue to highlight the good work done by the Swaminarayan sect. Kishan, since we talked about faith and religion, in the current climate, do you think there's something which is not quite going right? There's in the political discourse of today's time, there is a certain amount of divisiveness and corrosiveness, which seems to be a rebuttal to what has happened in the earlier decade or so. I'm referring to some of the things which have happened, like in the Islamic countries, or what we call, things like Afghanistan, subsequently 9/11, and so on and so forth. So there seems to be some kind of a rebuttal, some kind of reaction to it. But at the same time, it seems to have caught on. And we've seen this happening in America, where Trump, ex-President Trump, used it to great effect in his own campaign. And we can see the undercurrent of it globally. It's not just America. And it's certainly there in the United Kingdom as well. And not just United Kingdom, it's there in India as well. All the big countries, big democracies. And this seems to be not going in the right direction. And I would also ask you on that note, what do you think of the new policy of the Indian government as it is reflected in the world? I mean, what do you think? Are we going the right direction? It's a complex question, and you can take your time and answer the best which you want to.
So I think the question in its fundamental core is the reason why I left the Conservatives. This divisiveness that I saw in politics, this divide and rule of the right in particular, has really, really damaged our society and our fabric as today. Imagine growing up as a young 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old Polish boy or Romanian boy in London right now, or in any city in the UK, when you know that you're possibly one of your friends' families have voted to basically to not have them here, okay, and in no other uncertain terms. That is a horrible, horrible feeling, both mentally for a young person, but also it is not the values that I believe that Britain holds. It is fundamentally the effects of a divisive right wing regime, which you can see the effects of. And I'm so glad, and I'm so I thank God profusely that Biden won in the U.S. because Trump was ruining the very fabric of the American country and the American nation, and we can see that here. It is a really scary thought that dividing communities allows one community to come on top, or one political party to come on top, because simply of their for their political agendas. It is not nice. It is fundamentally un-British in my view. I don't believe it is the British way of life, and I believe the British people are far better than what this government in particular is trying to push across. It is not just about race. It's not about religion. It's also about socioeconomic backgrounds. It's about the North and the South. It's about various things that this government like to divide us on. And it's not just this government, as you pointed out, in America, in Hungary, in parts of Italy. These governments do exist, and they're dangerous. They are fundamentally dangerous. It is worrying. It is troubling, and I think people will ultimately reject this type of politics, and we saw that in America. I am assured, and I really fundamentally believe, at the next election, people will reject that in the UK as well, because it is not the type of politics we want to see our young children be growing up in. It's not the type of world we want to see our young people growing up in. In terms of your second part of the question, in terms of India, I'm not that well versed on Indian domestic politics to make a real sound judgment call on this. All I can say when it came to the COVID handling recently by Prime Minister Modi about his other policies, his domestic policies, the domestic things that he's doing. But when it came to handling COVID, he showed good leadership in terms of closing the borders. Real leadership that we were lacking in this country. Actually, if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, we have still not closed our borders in this country. We still have flights coming from XYZ countries that could carry huge amounts of coronavirus that could infect people, and he hasn't done this since March of last year, and he's still umming and dallying over this, right? Whereas Prime Minister Modi did take action, and we can see in India that COVID has been restricted. So actually, as I said, I don't know enough information about the other things. Now, there's obviously the farmers' issue has come up recently in India, and it's something of concern for the international community. But you often have to wonder as well that there are other countries that also have big issues in it. Why are they not being highlighted all the time as well? And so we must obviously fight for human rights. We must obviously protect human rights. It's very important, and we must challenge international governments on these issues. But we must challenge all international governments, whether that's China, whether that's Saudi Arabia, whether that's Iran, whether that's Israel, whether that's any of the African countries, and of course, Trumpian politics. We have to challenge, right? And I think that is extremely important, whichever background one comes from. So I think the core of this issue, Manish, in my view, is this politics of dividing and ruling, this politics of divisiveness, this politics of hate. There is no place for this in our society, and there should be no place for this in our society. And I fundamentally believe the good people of our country, the good people of Britain, will reject this type of politics going forward. They were sold a lie, many people. They were sold down the river. The fishing industry has been sold down the river. The agriculture industry has been sold down the river. A farcical lie that was Brexit. Okay, where is this 350 million? Where people are stopping talking about this, but actually, why? Let's talk about it. They lied. They continuously lied, and they continuously lied even last year to get an 80-seat majority. It is about time next time round, even in May at the local elections, let's give these people a wake-up call and say, you know what? We're not standing for this anymore. We're not just going to be passive listeners to your PR gimmicks, right? And your great PR gimmicks that cost millions of pounds that you spend and you send literature through our door talking about these things. Actually vote on the issues. Let's vote on what has happened in this country, whether it's over 100,000 deaths on COVID, or whether it's the decimation of the financial system in London, or the businesses in London because of Brexit, or the XYZ industry, the fishing, the agriculture, you name it, has been down because of Brexit, and because of the dismal handling of COVID by this government. Let's talk about those issues. Let's vote on those issues. Let's not vote on this magical PR gimmicks that they like to give, and these promises, these fanciful promises of a land full of honey and milk and wine. Not there, right? It's not there. Let's vote on the issues and let's show them at the ballot box that actually, we are not silly people. We understand politics. We understand the issues there, and we will reject this type of politics. We will reject this these type of lies. To be quite frank with you.
Thanks, Kishan. So we're coming to the end of the show. My final question would be, what really drives you beyond politics? I mean, I can see that you're really passionate about what you do. But what's there beyond that? I'm sure you have a lot of passion, interests, and I know you have a lovely family, and you have a newborn. I think 2-year or 3-year-old. I'm not sure.
No, he's only 6 months. Actually, he looks 2 or 3 years old. I can assure you that. But he's only 6 months, and he's very, very.
Oh.
He's already. He's keeping us on our toes. I can tell you. Look, I'm blessed after 9 years of marriage. I was blessed with a baby boy. He is a gift from God. The blessings of my guru, Mahant Swamiji, Pramukh Swamiji, and all our Swamis as well. We were blessed with a baby boy, Dev Yogi, his name is. He was named by Mahant Swami as well. And yes, he has been a blessing for us. And actually, politics isn't my life, as much as people might think it is. Those of you that are on my WhatsApp as well might think it is. But actually, it isn't my life. Family is very much what I'm embedded in. My mother means a lot. Wife.
So, Kishan, what's your final message for our viewers? We're coming to the end of the show for today.
So my message is this. Actually, now I ended on family. I should start on family. I really fundamentally believe in family values. I believe in seeing a world that will be better for future generations, whether it's through a fair educational system, whether it's through a fair national health system, whether it's through a country that believes in social justice and liberalism, nationalism, globalism. I fundamentally believe that is the type of world that our communities would like to live in, and they do want to live. They live that in their own lives. So when they do go and vote in the future, when they do go and interact with their political views or their political choices, one should look at the options there. One should not simply just vote blindly because their generations have voted in a particular way. They should vote on the issues, vote on the matters, and actually engage. And the onus lies on political parties such as ours, that we need to engage with various communities and get out there. And I hope these are types of programs through yourselves, Manish, who's doing a great job in reaching out to various communities and reaching out to the Asian communities across the UK, through your shows and through educating people, through having these discussions. It will enable people to make those informed choices. But I really do believe in the Sanskrit shlok that says Vasudeva Kutumbakam, that the entire world is one creation. I really believe if we lived according to these words and the words of Pramukh Swamiji Maharaj, in the joy of others lies our own. If we try and imbibe those words in our life, we will see a beautiful world around us and a beautiful place to live in.
Thank you, Kishan. Those are truly inspiring words from Pramukh Swami and from yourself. Thank you so much for being on the show. Viewers, see you next week, same time in the Manish Tiwari Show. Thank you so much.